We got a can situation.
Uh-oh.
No, we're good. We thought we had a microphone can beer explosion, which would be fitting. Week 1 of the college football season. We are
It's pure chaos.
No putts allowed. Adam and Paige, as a disclaimer, Paige is already fighting off a sneeze.
Yeah, I lost it. I don't know.
Wow.
It's probably going to come back.
Yeah, you do lose a sneeze, but when you lose it, it takes time. So we will wait to sneeze. We'll set the over-under at 14 and a half minutes in that the sneeze does appear.
What are you going to take? The under
I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take.
Okay.
Well, I feel like if you talk, maybe you'll talk your way through it, like
Yeah.
the sneeze.
I know it's there. I can feel it.
But hey, happy football. We made it.
We made it. It's week 1. This is so exciting. Week 0 delivered. Week 0 delivered in a way.
Yeah, so we got to get into this rhythm. You and I record this on a Wednesday. Everyone else has already moved on from week 0, but we talk. We're like, hey, this shit happened. We do have to talk about Florida State.
Yes, that's necessary.
So I was not huge on Florida State. This sounds annoying because they just lost to a team as a double-digit favorite. But I was a little surprised because they were pushed around pretty bad, and I think for Norvell, who did an amazing job last year, I thought this has got to be a major oh shit moment. It's a conference game. There's a lot of oh shit flares going up here. So what did you think about the game in general?
It again proves the point that you cannot take what we saw last year. And of course, people recognize that this is a different team than last year's team, but a lot of the conversation was around, okay, they reloaded and have similar things to what they got last year, and so Norvell will be able to recreate the same magic that they had. Not the case. I think, sad for DJ that, his performance maybe didn't improve the way we thought it would. Just not sure what that team is going to look like. However, if you are another team in the ACC, door's wide open. Door is wide open for this. Looking at you, Clemson. Come on, without your transfers, you can do it. But
yeah,
you can prove the opposite works, not taking anyone from the transfer portal. But it was discouraging to see on the front of DJ because I feel bad that this again is maybe, we saw flashes at Oregon State. We were like, okay, maybe this is the DJ that was so highly touted coming out of school. Maybe it was Clemson that, wasn't a good environment. This seems a little tough. And the decision making was a little rough in a lot of aspects. So yeah, it's, you don't want to pile on because obviously there's still an opportunity for them, especially because there's a 12-team playoff, it's not 4. But it is something that I don't think a lot of people were anticipating it being this ugly, and I don't know how many games they avoid losing with that sort of play.
DJ, it's got to have one of the more fascinating college careers I can ever remember.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to freshman year, Trevor Lawrence, gets COVID, comes in against Notre Dame, and looks like Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
And you went from Deshaun Watson collegiate conversation
Mm-hmm.
to Trevor Lawrence and then to DJ, and it was just this neat. It was incredible. That guy, as a true freshman, I believe on the road in Notre Dame, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be it. Now, we did a profile of him in high school. This was all set up for him to be great. And watching him, and I can't help, you do these stories, and I think you're the same way. We root, you do. You're not supposed to root for a guy in the media. I hate that. No, we want all college kids to do well. But for him in particular, guy has been through the ringer a bit. But I'm watching him throw. And so he throws the ball. The first 5 yards of the throw, you're like, oh my God, this guy is throwing the shit out of this ball. He had that one throw down the middle of the field, and it's just not working. And I don't know why it's not working. And it didn't work at Clemson. It felt like it worked a little better. And then maybe we were reckless to think all right, now it'll be fixed. And I just think this is who he is. I thought the play calling kind of sucked. I didn't think it was just his fault, obviously, but clearly it's one of the more complicated football players because there's so much friggin' talent.
It's one of the harder ones to evaluate.
I agree, because you know what's going to happen. This is going to be like Joe Milton. he's going to get into like an NFL workout, and it's going to, wow, God damn, he can throw the shit out of a football, which he can.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always go where he wants it to go. And that happened again.
It did, but it made for great chaos. And
oh, what a game. What a start.
What a way for that Georgia Tech kicker. I mean, to be from Ireland, that was wild. Like,
oh, yeah,
the football gods are, college football gods specifically, very just shining down on us. You know what I mean? Well, I feel like this year is going to be pure chaos and full of stories like that.
And by the way, good for Georgia Tech. This is a program that has been Haynes King, like not dazzling, but really productive and somehow gracefully like bulldozery. I liked everything they did. They had Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, which is not at all confusing. But good for them. I mean, again, it's a conference game. So you look at like a Clemson, Georgia, and you're like, okay, maybe Clemson could get their ass kicked. And like they're still, and they're fine. And look, Florida State like really isn't like dead. They could figure things out. We do this shit every year. But not great. Not great. Unless Georgia Tech is really, really good. Don't think that to be the case. I think Florida State could be in for a long one.
Yeah,
year.
I do think it's different than when we had Texas losing to Alabama in the beginning of the year. I think it's a very different look when you're losing a game you should be winning. And also we're a double-digit favorite.
The other notable game, by the way, Montana State, New Mexico was straight fire.
Yeah.
But SMU, Nevada was a cavalcade of weirdness. And
yes,
I still feel bad for Nevada that happened to them. They created, like, good for SMU, by the way, because that would have been, they were a 28-point favorite, I believe, in that game. 28 points. It would have been one of the biggest point spread updates ever. And
upsets,
but I want to pull up the play-by-play. The fourth quarter, not great. Yeah, Nevada was up 24-13 with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. SMU touchdown, SMU safety, SMU touchdown in the last 8 minutes. Not great.
Not great.
Not great. And that game will play through to this week's picks in some weird capacity, and you'll figure out why. Locks of the week we are going to get to. They will be back. Can't wait for that. But what is the vibe check here in week one?
I'm excited for good football games. Like, we have some really good week one. Sorry, my jacket is excessively loud. So if you hear that noise, it is my jacket. It's a cool jacket, but shout out home field. But it's very noisy for podcast purposes.
Do you know when Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber is fake running?
Yeah.
Like in the car, right?
Yes.
Like that's what it sounds like when you move. Like if you were to do that right now. Oh, yeah. Sounds like you're starting a fire.
But it
is a nice
It reminds me of an Eric Taylor Friday Night Lights jacket. So I feel very cool because it looks like a coach's jacket.
No, it's so your vibe check is
that there's actually good football games that we get to watch this week. Like playoff caliber teams will be playing each other, and that's because of the expanded playoff. We get good games early.
I want to get my little mini rants out of the way so we can just bask in the glow of this. Can I just say, though, when I was filling out my locks this week, the number of shit games is still fucking appalling. Now, I understand that these teams have to have a budget.
Yeah.
They have to have a budget. Mm-hmm. So I respect that Ohio State is paying the MAC like $4 million. Did you see that list of like who's getting paid the most? Ohio State is paying multiple MAC teams like over $1.5 million to play. Yeah. I respect that. MAC, you need to have football too. But when you look at these, and we're going to make this very quick because football is back, yay. But I told there's not enough great games. There are some great games. But this is not how this sport should start off its season. You can't have this many fucking clunkers out there, Paige. Like, you can't. I'm looking through DraftKings and I'm like, this is horseshit. Like, I mean, how many Southern Utah type games do I get?
Yeah, I was going to say, which one specifically you're talking about? Utah, Southern Utah?
Oh, no, I can go on. Like, okay, Pittsburgh,
Oregon,
Kent State.
Idaho.
Purdue,
43.5
Indiana,
point spread. Yeah,
Louisville,
no, looking through the
Austin
spreads of this week was pretty atrocious. Like they're huge.
It's just Ohio State Akron. This spread is 49 points. If you have an opinion on that game, you're just guessing. You don't fucking know what Ryan Day is going to do when his team's up 38-3, right? Like, I just, even like Liberty Campbell is that team that you schedule that you just, they're going to get their ass
Speaking
kicked.
of a game that I'm surprised that the spread is not larger,
yes,
is Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State.
There are a couple of these games, that being one of them, that the team is getting some respect. Yeah. And Colorado is in another one. This will be coming out on Thursday, so we watch Colorado tonight. Colorado, North Dakota State is 9.5. So, and look, I'm super happy about this, but I really hope, it takes so long to schedule teams. I hope that these teams can really start to schedule more meaningful.
Well, I think they will now that the playoffs bigger. Before it was, again, the Michigan way of getting as many cupcakes as possible so that your resume.
Wow. It's good. Michigan way. Yeah.
The Michigan way.
By the way, I don't even want, Ohio State has played some tough out-of-conference games in the last 5 years. There are teams, it's just that them in totality are, you want to start your season with a bang. And we've got some bangers. We'll talk about them. We've got some absolute bangers.
We absolutely have some bangers.
But it is just rough. And even the Monday night game
Alabama, Western Kentucky.
And Alabama has scheduled some bangers over the years. They played USC and they will play Wisconsin. So they're trying. It's just in totality. I think we can do better. Even Monday night's game now, Florida State, Boston College is probably compelling for the wrong reasons. You want to see if Florida State will slip on the banana peel again.
Honestly.
Which is compelling.
Which is can they adjust? Was it a fluke? You just don't know.
I used to bitch about teams playing in Jerry's World or in Atlanta, and now I've realized that's the wrong bitch to have. A team like USC and LSU who desperately need wins. Those are two teams that need wins for unique reasons. Thank you for playing the game that you're going to play.
Yes.
That is very, very exciting.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
Me too. So that's it. That's my one rant. My second rant.
I was going to say you have a different rant.
I have a different rant. And this is also an uninformed rant, which is the best kind of rant. Connor Stallion's documentary, I believe, is out on Netflix.
Yeah, it dropped last night, I think.
I saw every sports writer writing a review of it. And,
really?
Oh yeah. And I'm not even going to text you this nonsense. I did not watch it. We said before that I thought the Netflix stuff has been weak.
Well, the untold ones are weak, yes.
By all accounts, this one was weak too. Everything I've read is the guy comes off as very passionate. The manifesto is real, and he doesn't really admit to anything because this is ongoing. And here's the rant. Why are we telling this story right now?
Thank you.
Why are we telling this story through, this guy got paid to do this. He clearly loves Michigan. He's not going to admit anything. Even they asked him about the disguise. He's like, oh, it didn't look like me. What a waste of time. Why do we need this content?
If it happened in the last 20 years, I don't want a documentary on it. I don't think there should be a documentary on it until 20 years has passed. That's my rule now. 20 years.
I am not going to waste my time. I'm going to rewatch Friday Night Lights instead.
I probably will watch
season.
this just because I want to see it and I'll get FOMO. I didn't have time last night, but if something has happened in a sport, I need it to be 20 years past before we really dive into it. There's certain ones that are good. I thought the Aaron Hernandez one was pretty good. I don't think that was I thought I learned more about that situation than I had thought. The Johnny Manziel one I thought was still too early to do one on. I thought we should have waited, especially I know they tried to capitalize because of the fact that NIL is now legal. So it was just some of the stuff that he was doing would have been legal. But I just felt in terms of development of the story that sometimes we do things a little prematurely because we're trying to, capitalize on, the name associated with it. Because, in 20 years from now, are people going to remember Connor Stallions? To be determined.
That's it. I'm done ranting. I think it's a waste of time. I'm not going to watch. I'm protesting the Connor Stallions stuff.
You're protesting, all right?
Yeah, I am.
Well,
now,
a conference that will not be protesting the college football playoff, and many of them, their teams will get into the playoff. The SEC. We do have to preview them. Before we move into our week one. Pieces of content. There are a lot of very good SEC teams this year. And they are primed to have the most teams in the playoff. They're primed to have some of the best games, regular season games. But obviously the favorite being Georgia, Texas as well. Do you have a lean one way or the other on Texas or Georgia?
So the conference championship odds, just to kind of put into picture what you're saying, and I think you're right. You have Georgia at plus 190, you have Texas at plus 380, then you have Alabama at plus 500, Ole Miss plus 700, LSU plus 1,000, Texas A&M at plus 1,500, with Tennessee at plus 1,500, Missouri at plus 2,000, which I think is juicy. I'm just saying. I would probably lean Georgia. I know last year I was kind of bullish on Texas, and I still think Texas is good. I think the sport of saying Texas is back is kind of washed away. So I think Georgia, I think Carson Beck's really, really good. I like that would probably be the deciding factor for me. But the Georgia schedule, I mean, it is brutal. Like there is teeth to it. Look, starting with Clemson, I know they're a 13.5-point favorite. But still, that's a tough game. You go to Alabama at the end of September. You go to Texas. You go to Ole Miss. I guess you play Georgia Tech, which I don't know, could be relevant. Maybe you play Tennessee. You play Florida. Play Auburn. Like to your point, the SEC and Big Ten have put themselves in really great financial positions, but the cannibalization I think is going to start to be real, and I struggle with that because I think Georgia is really good, but this is not the best Georgia team they've had.
No,
I don't think. Maybe it will become that. It doesn't feel that way. And they just lost Brock Bowers. They've lost some really good players. So I don't know. Where would you lean? Georgia or Texas? Do you have a lean either way? Or somebody else, by the way?
I would lean Georgia in the sense that I think they ranked 28th or 29th in returning production, which for a team like Georgia, that's actually really great because you're losing guys to the NFL. You're losing really good players, elite players to the transfer portal. So I think in terms of, they've got veteran people on there. Carson Beck actually, had a really strong season last year. And we were talking on our Heisman ranking show. I mean, I think he didn't dip under 65% completion and didn't have multiple interceptions in a game last year. And in the SEC, that's very good. You know what I mean? That's for a guy that was being dubbed game manager really early on. But I will say if I had a lean, it would be Georgia just because of the respect and the fact that they have done it before with less talented teams. However, I will say that schedule is actually very daunting. But I think Texas has the guys to do it. They have the games to do it. I think both, like you said, talking about the cannibalization, kind of like we've seen in other conferences before this, I don't think we're going to see a team dominate and win the conference every single year and be undefeated. That's just not how this is going to go anymore because you've got more playoff caliber teams playing in the same conference. And it's not going to be what we're used to.
I am thinking that Alabama, the closer we get, the more I like Alabama.
Oh, same. I convinced myself of looking at their team, their schedule, just knowing that Kalen DeBoer, what he's capable of doing as a coach. I'm like, I actually don't think this is going to be, they could win the SEC and we could all be laughing at the fact that that's not an unheard of thing that people are saying, especially as the season starts to ramp up. I feel like Alabama has been more and more in the conversation because, again, to the point of we were just making, other teams have to play pretty good teams as well. So you're not going to have, even if Alabama loses 1 to 2 games, they're still going to be in the conversation, and they play Georgia. You know, they've got some head-to-heads, but Georgia plays Texas. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that is going to impact the SEC and how it kind of shakes out. And also, by the way, a lot of conferences dropped their like tiebreakers and stuff because it's so confusing now. It's not as straightforward as it was before. But there's so many other factors that are going to play into who wins these conferences and who's in the conference championship game that we just have not had to deal with before. And again, you are playing, you know, they weren't having to play Texas before. I mean, Alabama obviously chose to play Texas, but you have to play on a regular basis. You're not playing one big game a year. And that goes for the Big Ten too. Like, I think a lot of times we've seen that, like, every year there's one big game for each of the 2 best teams in those conferences. And I think now there's a little bit more going on in the SEC. I think we're so used to it being Georgia and Alabama. I think Ole Miss's schedule sets them up perfectly. That's another team that, like, could be very good. Lane Kiffin is, like, he's won so much being there already. Like, there's definitely potential here for him to crash this and also be one of those teams that maybe not in the national or not in the conference championship game, but a team sitting out that is able to get in an at-large bid and have a really good playoff run.
There is being out of your conference championship game with 2 good losses is a great position to be in if you're in the SEC.
Well, so, and
Ole Miss, Missouri.
I know. I want to look at their
Missouri's
schedule.
Another one. It's not that bad. Texas A&M, like a Texas A&M can get a win over Notre Dame. LSU, same thing. Tennessee, right? Oklahoma, all these teams.
Missouri's schedule is really, I mean, realistically speaking, they obviously have 1, 2, 3 ranked games.
Yep.
But they don't have to play Georgia. They do have to play Alabama at Alabama. But the rest of their games, they play Oklahoma at home. The rest of their games are so winnable. This is much like Ole Miss's schedule. Like, we talked about this last week, how schedule is just going to have such an impact, like, on college football playoff, because there's so many teams in these conferences and they're not going to be able to play every year. It's going to be the luck of the draw and how you do it. And then there's a team like Oregon in the Big Ten who, like, is going to earn every win to be in a national championship or to be even in, like, the semifinals. So that's going to be crazy. But Ole Miss and Missouri, amazing schedules. Amazing
I think
schedules.
One of those 2 teams is getting in the playoff. I don't think that's even a hot take. I think, those are 2 teams with good quarterbacks, elite weapons, good coaches. I can say that now pretty comfortably, and good paths. Like, this is more of maybe a path problem for a lot of these teams than it is anything else. I think it's, I wanted to ask you this too, because I was on my way in. I was listening to, I forget what, they were talking about the biggest storylines in college football.
Okay.
And I think they were reciting something that our friend Ross Dellinger wrote about his storyline being the retirement of Nick Saban, more than maybe college football playoff or all those other things. And when you actually think about the impact of that, it is seismic. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, life after Nick Saban in this conference is really interesting. And I think it actually, we just assume Georgia's going to take this position, but, like, I think this conference is going to be a mess. I think Oklahoma's a team that I haven't probably given enough credence to yet. That is very capable. Mm-hmm. That is a good young quarterback that could be poised for liftoff. Like, you go up and down this thing. Tennessee is another team I have not talked about a lot. Auburn. Hugh Freeze knows how to coach. He knows how to do a lot of things, but he does know how to coach, right? Like, that's a team that could be a problem. I think that this starts to become like a wrecking ball of trying to get through this gauntlet, which is cliche, just means more blah, blah, blah. But you actually look at this shit on paper and going to these environments week over week, I think these teams are going to have a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. We do need to talk about Tennessee really quickly because you and I did Heisman rankings. And we were talking before. We did leave Tennessee's quarterback off of this, and if you've been listening to this podcast, you know we struggle with names.
Oh yeah,
we do. I think we should try. Yeah, DJU is literally what they were using on the broadcast because no one can say it, and it's still TBD on how it's actually said.
Yeah.
Because I've heard it multiple ways. Nico.
Yep, Nico.
Ima Leava is what I believe it is. Ima Leava.
Nico. Ima Leava. What?
Ima Leava.
So the problem with DJ, because you and I even debated this the other day, I said DJ Uyunglele, and then you said no, and I think you're correct. DJ Uyunglele.
Yeah.
And on the broadcast, still nobody really knows how to say it.
Well, and I say it that way because I told you there was a video when he was at Clemson of his dad explaining it to Clemson fans and like having them say it. But Nico, it's even if I like hear it the right way, it's just I'm going to call him something else. So we need to come up with a nickname for Nico. So Nico, let us know what you want your nickname to be, or just send us a video of you saying your name. And I'll just listen to it while I sleep so that I learn it. Because I do think that's a guy that we will be talking about. Tennessee fans are very, very excited about him.
And they should be. Like, we saw him against Iowa last year, albeit briefly. He looked really good. There are, you think about, like, this Heisman list. And we did our Heisman, and it's funny. Our Heisman rankings they were all quarterbacks. Because when you look at these lists of things, like guys like Avery Johnson, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, look, at this point last year, we're like, can Jane Daniels hold this top? Like, that was the vibe. Like, is Garrett Nussmeier going to take? Well, yeah, I think we saw how that worked out. Connor Wegman at Texas A&M, right, is another guy that I like a lot. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So there are good quarterbacks in this conference. There are good teams. You've got new coaches. I'm a Big Ten guy, but I look at the SEC and I'm like, this is a glorious, glorious mess.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And I've told you this all off season, like preview wise, even on shows we've done, like we've previewed so much that like I cannot wait for us to have legitimate football games to watch and actually see where these teams are. Because I feel like more than ever, it's so hard to evaluate teams in the preseason because you could have a guy that goes from one place to another, revamps his career. You could have him go from one place to another and not look the same. You could have, there's so many more factors than just obviously like quarterback or running back or whatever. It's like offensive linemen these days. Like, I mean, Ole Miss, another note there is that they have two offensive lineman transfers from Washington that it changes things for them. And that could be a huge impact on Jackson Dart. That could be a huge factor in them winning games. Like there's just so much in terms of transfer portal. Recruiting is obviously still a thing if you're, Clemson. And those guys count, but I cannot wait for us to get 3 weeks into this season to be able to see like, okay, it will start to take shape and we will start to get an idea of what these teams are and which games are actually going to be. I think we know some of the games that are going to obviously be the biggest games of the year, but I do think that there are going to be surprise teams in conferences like the SEC, and the Big Ten that are surprising contenders for a playoff spot.
5 of the top 8 in terms of Heisman odds are quarterbacks in the SEC. Yeah, you could say that's biased, but to me, I don't have an issue with the odds.
Yeah,
the odds are the odds, right?
Exactly.
That is.
You having an issue with the odds? No,
like that is quarterbacks in a high profile position.
The odds don't lie.
They don't lie. This is where people
don't lie. Odds don't lie.
But that's what shocked us when we talked about Nico. My guy Nico, when you're like, holy shit, this dude's 15-1 to win the Heisman. Now that does tell you that there are people here that think this dude is ready for liftoff. And look, he was like the number 1 player in the country a couple of years ago. I don't necessarily think we should be shocked by this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing that I did see that people were discussing in the college football realm that is along the lines of what you were talking about, they were like, now that Nick Saban's retired, who's the face of college football? And because Nick
Jim
Saban,
damn.
People were like, should it be a player? Is it Dan Lanning? Is it Shedeur Sanders? I think we should hold off on deciding, because I think you need, like, we've seen it with Georgia, we've seen it with Clemson, where people thought maybe they would replicate what Alabama has done, and they just have not. And certainly Georgia is going to be irritated by that comment, but do it for like 10 years in a row and then we'll talk. Or 16, 17. But I don't think we should anoint anyone just yet, especially when we have Nick Saban doing hilarious VRBO commercials. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I did. He's great.
Daddy's Hot Tub Time.
Yeah, he's great. And he was great on game day, by the way, too.
Yes. I think we should enjoy that we have Nick Saban still in the CFB world and wait to anoint somebody when it'll be a coach and it'll be probably Dan Lanning eventually, but let's take a pause on this. Or maybe it could be Ryan Day. Maybe it could be Ryan Day in his rosy cheeks.
It's Kirby right now. It has to be Kirby. Like, and he's not the same face as Nick. Nick was red-faced and pissed off and, charming and yelling at sideline reporters and yelling at everybody, and that added to it. And Kirby's not that guy, although if you've ever heard his locker room talks, those are pretty fucking hilarious. But I think that is, it's a really interesting point, though, because Harbaugh was a pseudo 1A for all of his quirks and oddities. Like, you don't have that right now. Like, and I don't think it's Deion. Like,
no.
I don't think and it's hard for it to be a player. Because it's not a constant thing, and you don't have a Johnny Manziel type personality right now that I can tell in the sport. Like, you just don't.
Well, some people could say Shador, but I personally think that there won't be a face of college football. Like, there will be maybe like 3 collectively that are consistently winning, but I don't think there's going to be a complete domination of college football anymore, like, because of all the reasons we just talked about. I think it's going to shift now into a collective, for lack of a better term, collective.
It's the NFL
that will have some quirky people.
You would say in the NFL, the face of the NFL is Patrick Mahomes, probably. Would you say that? Like,
yeah.
But the college football is going the way of the NFL in so many. I've got one more rant, by the way. Speaking of that, injury reports, availability. I saw my friend Bud Elliott, who does an awesome job for CBS, ranting about this week. Like, it's got to stop. In the day and age of gambling, people need to know what is going on. Like, the days of this, like whoop-de-doo Bill Belichick shit at the college level, like, it's going to come to an end. The conferences are going to say, there's, like, just enough. Give us real availability reports on what's be done. That's that is my probably. That is probably
Speaking
my
of
last
that, did you see that Dion is no longer taking questions from a local beat reporter?
Yeah.
We talked about this with Lincoln Riley.
Now,
last year, here's my rant. I have such a problem with, like, I understand if someone, like, oversteps their boundaries in a press conference and they feel like they didn't like this article he wrote about them and the phrasing he used discussing this. But these are people's jobs. It's their job to give their opinion on these things. I understand that people think that journalists that are just supposed to, abide by these certain rules. There are rules, but again, when someone's given an editorial piece to give their opinion, there are talking heads on TV that say worse things about Dion, but you would never say that they're not allowed to ask him questions. And also, for someone who's so quick to have Twitter fingers or to say things, I just feel like it's a really weird choice and hill to die on when you can't just answer questions and be respectful in a press conference setting. It's not like you're going to give him individual access.
No, you can't. All right, I'm not going to defend Dion in this. I think it's really stupid, and they're creating a much bigger story out of something
that's nothing. That's
solve.
My thing is I feel like it's an attention thing. I feel like he doesn't actually care.
Now, I'll also say with every fabric of my being, when I'm seeing the shit that this guy wrote, like that's just not my style either.
No, it's not.
Like,
but again,
there's
Stephen
a
A.
market.
Smith says shit about people and teams and all kinds of stuff all the time. And that guy's the highest paid person at ESPN. Like, there's plenty of people that are saying things that they shouldn't be saying in ways they shouldn't be saying them. I just think it's strange to pick out that specific one, especially when lots of people have lots of things to say about Colorado.
I agree.
I also think it's weird that it's in his contract at Colorado that he can pick and choose who he speaks to in the media. That's specifically in his contract.
Well, that's weird too. Now, look, Nick Saban, who we just love, had a tumultuous relationship with the media at times. If you were a beat reporter for Alabama, you got walloped on occasion, and it was a glorious thing to see. But Saban would deal with it. I know this because I know people. Saban would deal with it largely. Now, he would ultimately sometimes publicly like de-pants you.
Yeah.
That wasn't normally because he didn't like you. It was because like you picked him on the wrong day and he's trying to send a message and whoever was asking that question. But I know he would pull reporters aside and talk to them. Like, talk to them. Not yell at them, but like if he disagreed with something, he would pull them aside. I'm sure it wasn't a pleasant conversation.
No.
And that's fine. And reporters have every right. I think that's a much better way to handle this than to do this. This is soft.
You can certainly want to protect your program, protect the reputation of your program. I understand all of that. But again, I think it's the way they've gone about it and the fact that it was made so public and a statement was made and all of this is like, you're just trying to bring attention to something that, again, doesn't need to. Like, let's focus on the fact that he is starting accounts for kids of players on his team. That's something I would love to highlight and talk about.
Or the fact that someone on the Colorado staff went to try to get Saudi money on the. I mean, that's like.
Oh yeah, wait. We need to take a time out, and we're gonna pivot into the NFL really quickly. We told you so. Let's just say when all of that stuff happened with Live Golf, we sat here and we're like, it's going to happen in college. It's going to happen at the professional level. It's kind of already doing it now. Private funds can be in the NFL 10%, have 10%. That is, we told you. I just wanted to bring it up.
I have a tweet right now that's going pretty viral. The shit always gets weird. This tweet that I sent is up to 19,000 likes. So I made a tweet that, get ready to learn $27 domestic beers, buddy, for this. And this is on.
Is this just now?
This was, I think, last night. And then all of a sudden I looked today. I was like, wow, lots of responses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like the owners don't need this money.
1.1 million views on this tweet, Kramer.
I know, right?
Wow, I can't believe you didn't brag about this earlier. I'm so proud of you.
I was pretty proud of my tweet.
You making let me just say this. A tweet that involves you using beers and Buddy going viral is literally the most on-brand thing of all time, and I could not be prouder of you.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people have thoughts on this. Look, if you're an owner and you could sell 10% of your team more or less to, I don't know, a PAE. So let's say the average team is probably worth about $4 billion and you can sell a 10% stake and get $400 million in capital. Now, what's being argued positively is they're going to inject that. And this is coming to college football, by the way, because and they need it more than the NFL. The NFL owners are very cash rich, right? Jerry Jones is a bad example. They don't need this money. But the argument's being utilized is that they can use this money to improve facilities, to maybe work on spaces around the building, kind of do what Steve Cohen's trying to do at the Mets, they've done at Wrigley, is like create an environment. Steve Cohen's trying to build a fucking casino in New York. Now, in college, it's more desperate. You're going to have to start paying players. So if you could sell Florida State, what is Florida State worth? I don't know what an evaluation on these college teams is going to be. Probably worth a lot of money. And if you could get an infusion of a few $100 million,
actually, there's the worth of, hold on.
Oh, I'd be curious. I mean, Texas got to be number one.
There was a list that was put out. Hold on. There was a college list that was college football's most valuable programs.
Oh, I'll play your reindeer games.
I know that this was recent. This is on NFL. I don't know. In 2013. Forbes, Texas, Notre Dame. Yeah, like
Ohio State, Michigan,
Alabama,
USC.
But what year was this? I don't know what year this one is, but there was a recent one because you and I talked about Texas and just like it might have been what their donor money was, not actually what it's valued at.
And like, look, NFL owners are already rolling in it, and now they can keep ownership and still get another.
This was 2013, so these teams were valued at $100 million.
Oh yeah, that's
in 2013. Now they're just
multiples
worth
of 10
cash
to 20.
cow.
Yeah. So, but it will be interesting to see, and I think it's coming to college football too. Like, it is coming to college football. That news has already started. It's how do you do it, and for I mean, again, they have to start paying players. And this is the season, so we'll minimize this bullshit chatter. But
if I had that money, I would be starting with conferences. I would go with a conference and buy a whole conference because that's going to get you TV money.
Well, Florida State, you're buying Florida State, but you're also buying their, sports that don't generate revenue.
Yeah,
and private equity, the whole goal is to, simplify costs and to turn a profit. Hence the NFL, like, they're going to look at this and be like, well, you are selling out your stadium. Here, your beers are now $2 more. Like, this is, we'll see what happens. But we should talk week 1.
Yes.
I ranted about the games not being the greatest. However, there are very good games, and we will do our locks of the week. And but do we want to preview games? Like, how do we want to do this from a week 1 standpoint? Do we want to preview? Because we got a lot of big games covered in our locks too.
Yes, I do have a Georgia Clemson lock, but it's not on the spread. I'd just be curious what you think of that game, and if I mean, I feel like that's the biggest, probably, like from a larger perspective, playoff in mind. I'm curious if you think Clemson's just going to get absolutely walloped.
I don't. I actually don't have this as a lock, so that's how sure I am.
Yeah,
I think Clemson's going to be up for this to a degree.
I do too.
I think Clemson,
defensively specifically.
I think this is a. You remember the game? I mean, these two teams played, right? And the score was like 3-0. I forget what it was years ago. And this feels like we have to try to remove ourselves from the narrative of Clemson and just say, all right, defensively, they're going to be really good. Yeah. Offensively, you can have concerns. They could probably keep it within 13.5 points. And I don't know, like, Georgia has got to do this without Brock Bowers. Granted, they did that some the last, year, injuries and whatnot. Carson Beck should be better. But this was a team that wasn't firing on all cylinders against Alabama. Mm-hmm. They were against Florida State, but what the hell did that mean? They were playing against like the 18th string in that game. So I don't know. I think it's reasonable to have questions about Georgia. Like, I think Georgia's going to win this game. But I think it could be a struggle and kind of ugly in a very positive way.
Yeah. I will also say a game that I'm excited for but could be a total dud is Miami, Florida. I feel like I'm excited to see what Cam Ward looks like there.
Got that.
I don't think Florida's going to be very good. So I will say that. The spread is only 2.5.
I've got...
But I feel like this Miami team is another team that probably was looking at the Florida State situation and was like, doors open. This could be a team that we know nothing about. Another team that I'm very curious to watch play is actually LSU and USC. Or I would say Miami, LSU, USC, and Notre Dame are like the 4 teams, and I'm like, I actually don't know what we're gonna get.
No, I wholeheartedly agree, and I know you have this game in your locks. Mm-hmm. I do not know what the fuck to do with Penn State, West Virginia.
I have talked myself. I have talked myself out of Penn State already. When we talked last week about USC and that they have that head-to-head, looking at their schedule, I obviously Michigan will play a factor in this, but like I've talked myself into USC because of the fact that I feel like they're a little underrated this year. But Penn State, I'm like, we don't know. We literally have no idea what Drew Aller is going to be like. We thought he was going to be like the second coming last year, and he just wasn't.
Klubnik. Yep.
And there's just a lot of questions I have, and I don't think that those conferences are built for you to have like the stability that they've had before, where like Penn State only has to play, those 2 tough games, and they're supposed to lose them. I think there could be some weird games, and I think this first game that they're going to play is going to be a weird one.
I think that the Dakotas, Oklahoma State, South Dakota State, Colorado, and North Dakota State, I think those are both interesting because the point spreads are both around 9.5, 10 points.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see how that goes. I ripped on this slate because I wish there was more. UNLV Houston is a game, for whatever reason, that I agonized over. New coach at Houston, new quarterback at UNLV. UNLV was a really good story last year. That's a really interesting game to me. And what the hell are we going to get from Michigan, right? Fresno State, I know, coaching-wise, has moved things over. But that spread is under 3 touchdowns. Michigan has been pretty mysterious. I really want to see what the hell that looks like post-Harbaugh, post-Corum, post-McCarthy. I just want to watch them. I mean, there's a lot.
They could be back in a national championship if their quarterback is really good. If Orji is really good behind that offensive line, they could actually be very, very dominant. Because I mean, defensively they're going to be good too. We know this. They're big.
They've got great players. They still do. So I think there is compelling football games all over the place. I'm really excited to watch Jalen Milroe too. I don't know what. I don't think that's going to be a very close game.
I heard there was a rumor that he's going to look like a different guy. So I'm wondering if that means he's going to throw it more and not scramble as much. But we will see. All right. So we are going to do locks. We are going to do locks a little differently, where we just each individually go through our locks, and then we can discuss which ones we agree or disagree on that front. So why don't you start us off with locks?
All right. Week 1, locks of the week. Adam Kramer coming in. Here's where I'm going to start. Texas A&M -3 versus Notre Dame. I'm laughing because this is how I used to do all the PR videos that we do. So this is very comfortable for me. Texas A&M -3 versus Notre Dame. I love this game. This line has crept up in Texas A&M's direction. I don't care. I am fading Notre Dame. I think you are as well. I'm going to roll. We'll talk about this game a little bit more. I'm going to roll with them. I'm going to take USC +4 versus LSU. I think this is a wild line. I think USC is going to be so much better than we think they're going to be. I think Miller Moss is a dude. I think the defense is not going to be great, but I think they're going to be better, which isn't necessarily saying much. Miami versus Florida. I think you hit it pretty much square. This is a chaos game. This is a desperation game. These 2 fan bases need this. 2 coaches need this game. I think quarterback-wise, Cam Ward and Mertz are going to show out. I think they're going to produce. It's going to go over 54 points. Michigan State -14 versus FAU. Jonathan Smith's a really good coach. Brought in some really good players from an Oregon State team that I liked, including a quarterback that's not DJ, of course. I think Michigan State foundationally is going to prove something this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. And Troy -8.5 versus Nevada. All right, this Troy team lost a shit ton of talent. They've been really good, one of the best defensive teams in college football the last couple of years. Nevada is going to have like the hangover of all hangovers, I think, after last week. Troy is going to take advantage from home, which is a huge thing. I'm sorry, Nevada. We won money together, but we're going our separate ways now. So Troy minus 8.5 is my last one.
All right.
That's,
look at that. Very well done.
I mean, again, this is what I
You're
love
a professional.
to do. Yeah. One take.
Texas A&M Notre Dame. I actually stayed away from that game because I just don't know. I just do not know.
I get it.
I'm surprised that Texas A&M is favored. It feels like it could be a little strange.
It will be.
Feels like it could be really bad for Notre Dame. Not gonna lie to you. Like in the sense of like, oh boy.
I'm kind of
not on that vibe.
No. I think if Notre Dame wins this, though, on the flip side, they are the rest of that schedule.
They're not overrated.
Yeah.
Now.
No, I mean I think it's gonna be an ugly football game. But if they win this, then boy, they're in a great position moving forward because the schedule is not horrible. I don't.
Yes.
So
okay, cool. I will get to my locks of the week. We do have, I think, one similar, maybe.
Yes, USC.
Yes, we've got one similar, and I'll save that one for last. We're gonna start with Thursday night, Missouri Murray State, which by the way is very, very hard to say together. Missouri Murray State under 57.5 points.
Some sicko shit right there.
It is. Well, it's funny because my relationship with under-overs is rough. I usually take the over. I'm going straight unders this week to just see how we start off that season. So, so Missouri, Murray State, 57.5 under that point total. I did tell everyone a couple weeks ago that I was going to make this next pick every single week. Iowa, Illinois State, under 41. Sorry, I'm going to make the under bet on Iowa games every single week this year. Those won't always be my locks. That will just be an extra bet, but I figured it needed to be in locks for this week. Then we've got the West Virginia Penn State game. I'm taking West Virginia +8. I told you guys I've talked myself completely out of Penn State because I just feel there's a lot of uncertainty. For those of you who have seen Billions, I am not certain about this team. So the next up, we've got Clemson, Georgia. I'm not touching that spread whatsoever, but I'm going to take the under 48.5. I feel like this will actually be a very good game defensively, so I am going to stick with the under. Ultimately, I think Georgia wins, but I do think it's going to be a closer game than anticipated. And lastly, the game that we are on together is USC +4 versus LSU. I think this USC team is a little underrated. Not really sure what we're going to get with LSU. Their defense was atrocious last year. I know people can say the same about USC, but LSU, they were giving up way too many points. So I feel like USC might be in good shape to get this upset.
So we're on the same page. Well done, by the way. Well done.
Thank you.
We're on the same page for one game. And then we're Illinois, Iowa State, fuck Iowa State. Illinois State versus Iowa. Iowa State is Iowa's next week game. I can't blame you. I will say, last night I started a new dynasty in college football 25.
Of course you did.
And I played on a rather easy difficulty setting. I beat FCS West 141-0. And should I raise the difficulty? Yeah. But did that feel good to watch Cade McNamara just throwing fucking bombs?
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
Did you take a picture of it so you have that? So you could see that Iowa's never scored that many points. It might not score that many points all season. It could just be.
Yes, that is my other thing. I was talking to somebody I know today, and they're going to the Northwestern game this week at the temporary stadium.
Yes.
So I will get a full review of what the hell that is like. The optics are going to be amazing on that thing, I think. It's going to look weird. But I'm excited to get. He didn't even know it was a temporary stadium. I'm like, yeah, you're going in there. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude. Here's some pictures. It's going to be a thing. I am so excited that this is back. I am a better person when college football is on to people. I'm happier when college football is on. I'm a lot busier. I know you are too, so there is chaos in this, but I think college football just makes me happy. It's a sidecar of joy for me. And I miss it a lot. And then it's here. and I'm gonna do this disclaimer now. Don't fucking waste. And this is not to say don't do fun stuff on the weekend with friends, weddings, and all that shit. But don't waste these weekends. They are great.
Yes.
If you can,
especially because this is the first time we're getting to experience some of this stuff for the first time,
and enjoy it. Because when we write about this, and I'll write locks and do these things. It's week 1 and week 2, and then I'm editing week 3, week 4. I go, oh my God, it's week 7 already. Oh my God, it's double digits. We do this every year, and then we're like, holy shit, how is it November? Yep. I'm going to lean into this thing. I have my parents coming in town this week, which is always tricky to manage this because it's like, and they get it now. They know me, so it's like, hey, you gotta respect it.
Yeah, we're saying goodbye to our family and friends for weekend things.
It's tough. But it's what we have to do.
It's hilarious because like now people are so used to me not being able to do things that when they send me invites to things, they preface it by saying, I know it's college football season, so don't be like you have to come. Or like, I know you're probably not available, but I still wanted to send you the invite. It's a sad thing, but it's also hilarious in the sense that like this is what we do, and so it's all worth it. It's all worth it in the end. I can't wait for games. We can talk about games. We don't have to preview things. I'm so ready. I hate preview season. I'm not gonna lie. I love actually getting to like look and watch and react.
It's just so long. We get to do the AP poll show next week, which I actually will love because there will be movement. There will be overreactions. We will have thoughts. You're gonna have a team like Georgia or Clemson moving up or down. You're gonna have A&M and Notre Dame potentially moving up or down. I mean, there's enough meaningful games. And then, for a Billy Napier, this is such a critical ass weekend. All these dynamics of college football are in play this weekend. So as shitty as some of these games are, it ain't shitty for Billy. Billy needs himself a W.
Billy needs it.
Billy needs it bad.
Question: do you have any random shit today? We haven't done random shit in a while that isn't related to.
I am hoping to go see my New York Mets. We got a DM on the Golden Tee Socials account from the Mets bullpen coach. And he talked about, because we wait news with this Jackson Holiday Golden Tee thing all over the place. And there's a possibility that we could maybe get on the field and celebrate some batting practice with the New York Mets this weekend on Sunday.
Okay.
That would be cool for me. It'd be cool for my kids. I love the Mets. It's where I can actually, of all teams, where I can probably emerge as a most fandom, more so than Iowa. And so the White Sox are terrible. Getting there will be an enormous pain in the ass for me. But if I'm able to get there for a game and watching my kids, this would be their thing. This would be definitely their jam. So I'm hoping we can do that. That is my random shit. Very short and sweet. What about you?
My random shit's going to revolve a lot around wedding stuff, I'm sure, this season. So we're going to get a lot of that content.
Understandable.
But my initial just PSA to most people is that it's so expensive. So if anyone has any ideas for how to raise money, besides betting on college football, because that's what I'm going to do. All my betting money goes to my wedding this year.
That's the plan.
All of my betting money goes towards my wedding fund.
Overs for weddings.
So, what?
Overs for weddings.
Overs. This week it's unders for the wedding.
That's true. But Iowa under pays for your wedding.
The Iowa under for the wedding. Yeah. So literally I'm betting on this is the greatest. I'm betting the under on Iowa's total every single week this year.
To pay for your wedding.
To pay for my wedding. To at least contribute to my own wedding. Iowa,
come on. Win, of course. But
and if it is a large sum of money, if it's over $1,000, say, okay, you have to wear an Iowa jersey to my wedding.
Oh, I mean, shit.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be on brand.
I feel like that was a great brainstorm.
That's an actual bet.
Yeah.
Fucking Caitlin will kill me. I'd be at peace.
Let me just say this. My fiance was a best man in a wedding this last weekend. And I go to pick him up to drive it was about an hour and a half away, 2 hours away.
Yeah.
I go to drive to pick him up, and he is wearing a Brock Bowers Raiders jersey and his basketball shorts and his Crocs and his Raiders hat. And I was like, what we're going to a lovely wedding in Carmel. What are we doing here? And he goes, I already sent it to the groomsmen chat. I can't change. So he did in fact wear that jersey. Luckily I got him to change the Crocs, but wore his Brock Bowers jersey down to Carmel for the kickoff of the wedding. So
wow. Good for them.
So I feel Caitlin's pain in that sense.
But
But
Brock too.
Yeah, right? Pretty cool jersey.
No, but this is a good bet. I think it's a pretty safe bet too, because I don't think Iowa's going to score a lot of points.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it pays for part of my wedding, the wedding fund.
Is there anything else? I think we're ready for football.
Just hell yeah. Hell yeah, football.
Hell yeah, football. Football is back. Again, our live AP poll show will be on the Bleacher Report app on Tuesday. So if you miss us, which you will, come hang out. Behold the glorious comment section that it will be. It will be glorious.
To be fair, I have to shout out the comment section lately. They've been really nice to us.
Oh no,
they like us
they're
now.
Fighting with each other.
They know that we're doing this. We've been doing this, and so they've been very, very kind.
No, they will hate each other. That they've turned.
Yes,
it's like it's
Hank barking in the background. It's just a perfect. He knows it's always at the end.
It's officially the season can now begin. It's like the christening of a college football season.
All right.
Is Hank. All right. So enjoy the games. Also, we're going to be covering it. If you want to read
everything on college football. On the Bleacher Report app and the college football stream. We're going to be there.
All right. So with that, we got to go get ready for Paige. I am Adam. We will see you guys for week 2.